Oh wow, this is working out really well this time. I tried to play earlier and the server latency was so absolutely terrible that I couldn't actually respawn the pod. I had it literally land upside down and on its side and half broken. And then I started to play a bit more and I rubber band so hard that the small grade ship actually embedded itself in the voxels. Like, it was fully intact, it was just in the ground. So that's one more thing that I have now found that was really strange on a public server. Clang definitely has my number, but hopefully it's been sated with the sacrifice of a ship. I had planned days instead of hours. Now I have minutes instead of days. So whip out your public server bingo card and let's speed run through Titan. First thing we'll do is grind off a lot of this extra stuff. All this extra cowling on here will go. We'll need all this steel plate for later, so it's not worthless. We just need it not there. That landing gear is going to be the first bit of tech you need to unlock. Just take it down below that functional line, whip out your welder, and build it back up. You should see at the bottom of your screen the unlock new technologies. We already have that, so we weren't going to see anything, of course. But we do need this seat moved because we need to get behind it. The next thing that you'll want to do is take down this cargo container and then rebuild it as thusly, and you should see new technology unlocked. We'll take that down, and if you were still playing on a new game, you could knock out that conveyor tube and rebuild it. And actually, we'll just knock that down entirely. There we are. And add that in. We should have enough parts for it. We do not need this timer block. We'll take its computers and other components. Same thing with this beacon. And our parachute has already done its job, getting us safely to the surface of Titan. We'll take out that and this down here. We don't need this hydrogen thruster, and we won't be able to use it for a minute. I can already rebuild it, but if you are starting off, you can't quite yet. And that cores out the central area here for the most part, and that's a good start for us. So we got a fair bit of technology. We can also come over here to this H2O2 generator, knock that down, and rebuild. That'll unlock the next step for us. We'll take off this bit of cowling here. This will give us ample amount of plates to work with. Those down. We'll take off this top part. Just that much more steel plate for us to work with. And we can go into our progression tree. Down here we'll have our landing gear, and in here we'll have access to wheels, but more importantly we've got our remote control in here, and by building a remote control we'll gain access to thrusters. Since I have the remote control in place, I can tack it on there. If we hit G, we see that we have a build planner, and with the welder out, I can right-click and add the components that are missing to the build planner. We see here that it just needs the component and the motor, and if I have those available on a open conveyor system port, I can do middle mouse button to withdraw components from that port. And it'll draw all components that were listed in this build planner. This build planner can stack up to 8 items, which is individual items, but you can draw all the parts for them. With that middle mouse button to draw it out, we can just continue welding up, and now we've got our remote control in place. And I don't want a flight control seat or rover cockpit or anything, I just want that basic passenger seat back. It'll sit right there in front of that remote control. And I don't need all of the resources for it. See, if I tacked in here, I'm going to deposit all 10 interior plates for the base of it, and then an additional 10 interior plates to cap this off. That's not necessarily what I want, just because I'm so resource limited. Since I know this is using interior plates, what I can do is split this stack. I will do a right click on it and drag into an open space, and I will pull off 10. 10 is all I need to build this. The rest I will drop. Don't want to leave those there for too long because I actually need that interior plate. I just don't want it in my inventory when I go to weld this up. and that way I have the other interior plate available elsewhere. I can try to grind this down and weld it, but anytime I tap it with the welder, it's going to add all materials. With a gyroscope, I can manipulate this craft pretty easily. I've got these atmospheric thrusters, and while Titan does not have a breathable atmosphere, it does have enough for me to actually fly around in. So I'm missing construction components and some motors, and I can find those right here inside an atmospheric thruster. I'll grab those and add them in here. So now technically I could fly this craft, but I want to be a little easier on myself, so I can actually take another one of these thrusters and have it go forward and backwards, and that way I'm not doing this whole helicopter thing around the entire time. Since we built that remote control, we have access to atmospheric thrusters. I'm going to use the default ones here and just take that same atmospheric thruster that I took off and add it right back in. Since I knew I just chopped down that thruster, I know I had the components in there, so I can build it up. The next thing I want to do is I want to get to some stone because our survival kit will not process any ores. I'll hop in my seat, and you can see I've got no access to anything. It's because it's just a passenger seat. So what I want to do is I'll hop into the control panel, pull up my remote control, and then take control of it. Now we'll see a normal standard hotbar, and I can put things in here as needed to fly or to do anything that I want, just like a regular control seat would do. So I've got atmospheric thrusters. I'm currently locked to the ground here, so I can turn them all on. All on there, and if I hit space, you can see that they're trying to go up, and if I hit forward, you can see that that one's trying to go forward. I'm locked to the ground, so I'm not going anywhere, but that's a good piece of a flight check before we go off anywhere. I've got my gyroscope, so I'll be able to control this, and let's take off. Hit P to unlock, and we can hover about, and let's go. I really don't want to go too high off the ground. If I get more than, I think it's all of 100 meters or so, I will actually no longer be able to return to the planet using the atmospheric thrusters. There's a very, very thin atmosphere, and it's very easy to actually leave the gravity well with just the drop pod the way it is. And of course, once I leave the atmospheric safety area, I will be flying in space with no means to control anything. I'm just giving my forward thrust some love taps here. As I spin about and kind of use that gyro to level out, I can arrest my movement fairly easily. I don't need all of those thrusters keeping me up. I just need that one that I can turn in any direction. And as I hit C to lower myself, those atmospheric thrusters keeping me up just do less work. And I can land myself down gentle as possible. Try to spin and keep that one forward-facing thruster I've got, just trying to eliminate any kind of movement. There we go, we got a nice touchdown, and that's what I want to see. Now that we're on land, if we wanted to convert this into a rover, we could do so. We could pull out some of our blocks and tack it onto the sides and get our craft some wheels, but actually I think this time around I'm going to go for a vertical miner. I think that's going to be different, so let's try it. Let me think through it. I'm going to lift this thing up, and I'm going to build my drill underneath. We'll see. I'm going to roll this back and see what I'm working with on the underside here. Again, I'm going to come in and take remote control, E to unlock, roll myself back nicely, and gently set myself down here. Okay, so if I hop out, There's no access other than that one port. Let's do this. I'm going to get rid of this landing gear. If I really, really want it, I can put it back. Get rid of these guys, which are eventually going to leave anyways. Just trying to think through next couple of steps here. I'll draw out the components for a couple of these guys. You and... Actually, no. I'll make those two elbows. Elbow and elbow. And then I can pull this back, and I can stick a cargo container right there. Weld these guys up. I can stick the drill right there too. Let's do that first. Drop the drill in place. So now I've got a nice vertical drill oriented in here. Got a couple of items I have for it. Don't have everything I need to build, so welder in hand. I'm going to do a right click while looking at it. Add those components to my build planner, and they are down here at the bottom. Now I just need to get close enough and I can withdraw. Middle mouse button will pull out everything. I've got -2 large steel tubes. I can work with that. So the other places I've got tubes are in these thrusters. If I take one of these guys off of the flight, so I just have the one vertical thruster, that's gonna just have to be how it is, and I'll be really dangerous in flight. And then I'll take off that one I was using for forward thrust, because what I really need is to stay aloft as I am drilling. There we go. Now I have a drill under there. It has some cargo capacity of its own, which is what we'll be using in order to mine everything. We'll just have to be really careful when controlling all of our axes as far as our drift in any other direction. Let's go into our production survival kit. We'll tell it to build some ingots. Tell it to build a couple thousand of those guys for us. And now that we've got our drill in place, we'll take control with our remote control. Take control. And let's add our dampeners back on. Let's see if we can just crank ourselves upwards, nice and neat. There we go. Fight the ability to fall over. And now we're upright. That was all gyro manipulation there. Didn't use that thruster, but now that we've got ourselves set upright, I do want to use the drill. We can do that a couple different ways. We can take our drill, we'll hit our G menu, add it to our hotbar here. We can make it a toggle on off, or we can use these block groups to tag it in there. Using the block groups, say if I switch over here to 8 real fast, I can do a left click, dig to remove, and that will actually gather resources for us. Get closer back to the ground. We can do a mass removal, and that'll get us through some of this surface dirt and closer to what we want. Hopefully I can dig myself a small hole that I will be able to get out of. There we go. Getting through some of that surface area into the ground. And you can see that the ground texture has changed a little. I've gone from dirt to actual stone now. And that's kind of what I want to see, is that stone actually is more effective at being gathered, or rather it's more dense. Technically the dirt is also stone, it's just less dense, so I have to gather lots of it in order for it to make that same kind of impact. But here, I'll just press myself down, and I can even go so far as to turn that dampener off and dig myself a little hole to sit in. And I've got that little pit, and as long as I don't topple over too much, I can watch my horizon bar there and make sure I don't do that. I just want to stay as upright as possible. I'll lift myself up a little bit here, turn, be horizontal again, and then let myself cut into more of that stone. I check out my production and my inventory, everything right now. I'm just making a bunch of ingots, and that's what I'm going to want, because the next thing I'm going to do is build an actual assembler, or rather a basic assembler, and get some power production going for it. Those take a lot of resources to do, and while I am gathering this, I can start queuing some of those items. So depending on where you're at, if you're on the moon, obviously you don't have any kind of atmosphere to work with, so you would have to use solar panels. But since I do have some sort of atmosphere to work with here on Titan, I'm going to be using wind turbines. I find them to be far more effective at doing what they do, especially if we have a bit of a storm come by. Then those wind turbines are going to be generating extra power for me. As soon as I get a basic assembler going, I can actually start rebuilding those tubes and rebuild all of my thrusters. So not only would I be able to lift more, I would be able to... Oh, let's fix this roll real fast. I do not like that. And I do not like that either. No, no, no. I believe I am upside down. Okay, fixed it. Whew. Camera, stop killing me. Let's go up. Up. And I gotta go do a Boba Fett landing. Here we go. Go forward. That's not that go. That's not go that way. Here we go. Forward. Forward, please. There we go. And I gotta do... rest on my momentum. Slow enough. And just kind of... there. That's a pain in the butt. I do not recommend that. That was pretty scary. But I do have access to everything that I need down here. I'm going to start off with a bunch of interior plates to get what I need. There's a few there. I'm also going to need girders, so let's go over here to my production. I'm going to need girders by the dozens. I'm also going to need some motors and components. If you hold Control or Alt or Shift, you can build these in stacks of 5 or 1 or 10 or 100 or 1,000. However you want to combine those two to make multiple increments of things. And that way you don't have to keep pressing individual items on here. But as this goes through, it's going to go into the queue in this order. So it's actually going to try to build all these ingots before it touches anything else. And I don't care for that. So I'm just going to drop that down. It'll throw it to the end and I can begin producing everything else as long as I have the materials necessary for that. The survival kit will go back and process ingots and get that out of the stone as it needs to, but it's going to try to build these first. Let's run off this way a little bit and I can set up some stuff for myself. I'm just going to build a quick tower here. Switch back to that interior block. I want to get a little far off the ground here. About 8 or so should be good. And that'll give me plenty of wind clearance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll give it one more because that first one was kind of short. And looks like we are out of interior plates. That's fine. We'll hop over to our wind turbine. Wind turbine was already on the queue, but we need more plates. So with this piece of tech in place, I can come over and build myself a basic assembler. Basic assembler is actually under the survival kit. I'll tack that here on the side. I don't want to build the survival kit. I want the basic assembler. Can go ahead and put that in there with that port side out. And then I can deposit what I have into it. Well, it looks like I'm very short on things I need. I'm not too worried about this grid disappearing on me. That is a chronic problem, unpowered grids on the public servers. There is a cleanup feature that is very aggressive, tends to delete grids that are unpowered. Basic assembler components are all completed. I can use that port to take a look and see what's going on here. My wind turbine is at 388 kilowatts, so that's excellent. That's why I did that extra height in order to get it to work. I need 280 to get this basic assembler to work, so just that one turbine at that height is going to be sufficient enough to power this, and that's what I want to see. Coming back over here, I no longer need this to be actually building things, and it's not. I do need it to produce ingots for me still. but I can take all the rest of these items out, and then I can come over and deposit them. For the weapons and ammunition and data pads and stuff, it's still not going to say, hey, I want you to dump these. It figures that you want to keep those in your inventory. So if you did want to move them, you'd have to move them manually there. Okay, items deposited, basic assembler up and running. I did need those large steel tubes, so we can tell it to produce those. And while that's building some tubes for me, I can just carve this down a bit more. And I'm gonna need to stop here in a second to get some more power. Looks like there's a server connection problem. Yep, sure was. If you're ever grinding on something on a server and it's not responding, you're either grinding your survival kit because you're not paying attention, or you've got some sort of server connection where you're desyncing from the server either because of high latency or whatever's going on. I won't be able to do too much here as far as getting all these thrusters online, and that's just because I don't have a ton of resources to start with, and I do need some cobalt before I can build more metal grids. But not only do I have the 4 metal grids for these thrusters in every direction, I actually have 4 more for the small hydrogen thruster, which was down here at the start with. Draw, and I can tell it to build whatever else it can, which I doubt is too much more. I can get the rest of these, or at least a couple of them, going, and that'll give me a bit more stability. Back in the seat, I've got that little bit of extra thrust, which is good for me. Come back into my control panel, get control with my remote control, and then we'll go and hop back in that little hole we made there. I will turn on the dampeners this time, and then actually go forward. And doing that with the up, it actually should keep me pretty well in line. Level myself back out, and then just try to scooch over this way. I do have 2 directions that I can work with up top, so forward and then off to my right, and that'll help me keep a little bit more stability. Those thrusters can fire as I waddle myself around, trying to turn my craft for a little bit more stability. Turn that drill back on and just kind of let myself sink down, using the gyro to spin to help keep me level. I don't want to get too heavy on this craft, not with that 1 thruster on there. Once I get a couple more thrusters, we should be good to go. See that that drill is filling, and it's actually got some nickel in there, which isn't really what I want at the moment. The survival kit can only process the stone. And turn that drill back on, and then select some more of this. And that's kind of the initial game loop, is you do some small resource collection into larger resource collection, so you can build something better to do more resource collection. And so you can do more advanced building with these advanced materials. Real end game after that. You can build whatever you want if you have kind of the sky's the limit there, up to your imagination. I'm actually going to come over here and take the nickel out. It's just going to be in the drill here because the survival kit will not take it. I'll put that in my inventory, and then from my inventory I'll put it in the chair. Chair has a bit of inventory itself, but it's not actually connected, so I'll have to move things around manually. This is a small grid craft, and it's going to have small grid or small and large conveyor ports on it. So with this being here, this H2O2 generator has a large port facing out, but it had 2 small ports facing on the inside. Some items can pass through small ports, some cannot. Here we've got these resources, both the ingots and the ores themselves can pass through those small ports, and that's what I care about at the moment. I'm just going to grab some of them, and then I'm going to add them over here to my basic assembler, and let that basic assembler continue the production of the necessary materials, and I'll get those extra thrusters online. There we go. Now we've got that connected in, and we'll be good as far as our directional stability goes. So the next thing I really want to do is get some more drills and some more cargo containers on here. we'll also want to get a basic refinery going. With the basic refinery, I won't have to sit and wait for this survival kit to actually do the work for me. That basic refinery is much more efficient and much quicker at it, so I'll get a higher yield of stone turned into those basic materials much faster. So let's get that going now that I've got thrusters in all directions. Give myself a little larger area to hit that stone, and just turn my drill on, let myself sink in nice and slow. I just want to stay away from that nickel. I want it, but just not now, because again, that survival kit cannot handle the basic ores, or really any ores. All it handles is stone. See, our drill is full, and so is our survival kit. We'll just let it chunk through there, because can't really do much else at the moment. And actually just sit here and chill out for a second. I just lean forward and rest the pod there. It's not going to go anywhere, and that way I don't have to waste all of my energy sitting there trying to fly with it. This pod's not going to stay around forever. It's got a finite amount of time on it, and if I log out, it's going to disappear. Or if there's a server shenanigans and it gets merged into the voxels again, that'll also make it useless. So ideally, as much as this is useful, I want to get rid of it as soon as possible too. I will want to queue up another wind turbine and then that basic refinery so I can throw materials into it. So I will put that basic refinery here. And I can also put a cargo container here. And that way I can continue building my blocks out. We'll also put some additional bracing underneath. Structurally, not necessary, but it kind of pulls together a look of things for it to be supported. And if this one block were to go, I wouldn't lose any of these. I would, however, lose that turbine up there, which is not something that I want to do, but is something that is potentially inevitable. Withdraw what you've got, tap it in. As soon as you do the withdraw with that middle mouse button and you tap with that welder, it will deposit anything that you have in your inventory into that build state. And you don't actually have to build it up anymore. Actually, the limiting factor is whatever is at the base as it tracks up that build state components. So right now I'm short 7 steel plate, and this will not actually build all the way up just because of that lacking first component. I should have enough plates by now. Tap it in, and yes, I do. So I'm just going to double tap on that welder so I don't have to hold that mouse button down. Just double tap on that left click and let it continue to build. Especially because this is the tier 1 welder and it's going to be super slow. I'll just double tap and let it do its thing. Now we've got that full up. We probably will be suffering for power here, because we can check you out. You require 330 and needed 280 from you. So that's going to be too much for my one turbine. So if I throw anything into that refinery, these are going to be fighting for power with each other. Only one is going to be on at a time, which means I need to get that second turbine up and running. And since that refinery is up and running now, I can just come in here and grab these last bit of ore and toss that in. I'll let my refinery work its magic there. So with us in the state of having a basic refinery and that basic assembler going, the next thing you really want out of your ship here is the ability to gather lots of resources faster so that we can have the weight be on the refinery or the production of components and not the weight on us gathering components, or rather the materials to build those. So let's put our dampeners back on and take off this way. I know there was iron in here and I know I need lots of it. So let's go and put our drill on and give that iron a kiss. We can also get another tap of the nickel. As we build more thrusters and metal grids will use a lot of nickel too. I will need a lot of these resources. So I'll just gather what I have here, actually scooch myself back, and I'll just put the dampeners off and let it sink in. And while I'm doing that, let's hop out. And I'll whip out my drill. This is nickel, obviously. Nickel, iron, and cobalt. So cobalt's over here on that side. I'll hop over there next because I know that's the big gateway that I need. It's going in my inventory. Looks like we've got the iron in there. So that drill is filled with everything, the nickel and the iron. That survival kit's not going to be able to process either of those. And since I know I'm filling up on them, I'm just going to go ahead and go back. All right, we can take out these items from the drill and we can toss them into a refinery, let those start working. Ditto here, and that stone, I'll just take that and all these materials. I can tell that survival kit to stop processing things. If I just get rid of it from the production queue, don't have to worry about their survival kit trying to do anything anymore. And I'll take all of its ingots out and that last bit of stone it has and throw that into my base here. This craft is now at the point where I need to take off that front seat. I need to take off that, and then build upwards to give myself more cargo capacity. And then while I'm at it, I need some more drills in here. That way I can just plunge and get all the resources I need as fast as possible. I should have enough stone and iron and everything to do a small upgrade for myself here at the moment. I'm going to take off that seat that I've got. I'm going to pull this piece off and I'm going to add myself a cockpit. That cockpit's going to be piped through because of how we had it set up, and that's what I want to see. And I'll rotate this around. And another item I want to put in here too is I want to come up and put cargo storage up here. I won't be doing the landings like this forever, but I do need more storage than what I have. And this is already in the up position. If I take this curved tube and I turn you into a T, and then I can turn this into an up. All right, those are in place, and I need to come up one more, it looks like. I'll do that. Come up one more. Doot, doot. And now I can actually put my storage up here. Because I'm up above everything, I'm actually going to go for a large storage. How about that? I'll go for the large storage, and I'll surprise myself. I'm going to think this half step ahead, put that large cargo container up there, and I will even put a forward-facing connector. That looking good to me. That is looking good. Just need to get motor. No, we don't even need that. It's functional. So we are functional there. If we go find just a touch of the cobalt, we can start building our real craft, and that way we can get bigger everything. And that cobalt's going to hold us up. So let's go get it first. Do another vertical plunge here as we hunt for cobalts. You know, earlier I was talking about trying to leave a smaller signature where you're building. Definitely digging holes all over the place is not the way to do that. These are all quite visible from space and can definitely make you easily seen. But unfortunately, that's what we got to do for these initial resources. So if you were planning on building a nice base somewhere, you do not want to be drilling around it. Say absolutely not for that. We've got some stone, which we don't necessarily care for, but all fine. Unless it's not, let's turn that off. So we only barely have enough thrust to get out, which is a good time to leave. Which means our craft is too heavy, which is good because we are probably at that point where we can upgrade it. Let's get out of here. We're also kind of short on power. Well, I am blasting this one small grid battery with all the thruster that I can. I am quite tilted too. Let's help ourselves out a little bit. Pointing down, pointing forward. Or it may have just been because we were using multiple thrusters. Let's dump that. Let's get some of the stone and chunk that too. Same thing with this stone. Chunk that. Stone's not going to be nearly as effective as, say, iron, so if I get rid of it, I should ditch some more mass. There we go. I gain some altitude. I am. That's good to see. Okay, that should be good enough. We'll take literally everything we can, toss it into here. Once I get that going, my production should be able to build these extra couple of metal grids, and then with those grids going, I can complete this cargo container, which I should be able to do now. There we go. And now I don't have to worry about waiting on those resources anymore. I can just dump everything into this cargo container and let that refinery work on its own. Now that I found my critical cobalt piece, I'll double check what I have for iron, because I definitely need more drills. But I definitely need more thrusters. That's 2. This should be an appropriate height. I should have a fair amount of lift now. Excellent. Let's see my height. So if I just look at that front cargo container and bang on, that's the height that I want for this. I will go get more iron. That is a lot of upthrust, almost too much upthrust. I really need a downward thruster to kind of arrest that. I've got way too much going up at the moment, but I'm going to need all of that upthrust to pick myself up out of this pit. Even though I've got this at a good pace right now, I'm already outgrowing the capabilities of this miner. So the next thing I'll do is I'll make a larger miner. I'm kind of liking this vertical miner. This is my first real try at doing anything with the vertical mining, but it's not bad. Not bad at all. Now the next question is, do I want to make this next craft also a vertical mining one? I think we filled this up. We sure did. How about that? Let's take a look at our refinery. Refinery still chipping at that cobalt. We'll throw stone at it. We'll throw iron at it. Take this. Put the stone back in. Take that nickel out. I want that stone to go first. Okay, that's going pretty smooth. Almost too smooth. Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. What's my production doing? Production's chipping along. That's a point of contention. Let's grab more resources. We can probably build this guy up. Looks like yes. That's fantastic. And over here, looks like we've got all of these going. That is excellent. So the next thing we're going to want is a better drill ship to get more resources more quickly. We're also going to want greater refinery capacity and greater manufacturing capacity. And those also mean I need more energy production in here as well. So we can actually work on all of that. Manufacturing back this way. Let's do so. Our assembler can be found here in this survival kit, which I might also want to tag in here. I will do so, actually. I'm going to take a steel plate. I thought I had a plate on me. I did not. I want that plate and that plate. I'll take... I usually want more steel plate. Oh well. I can tag... Or at least I can get it off of that pod. You can hear that thunder rolling in behind me here. Damn unstable proto-matter. This place won't be safe for long. I'll put you in the ground. That'll be our big refinery. We'll also want some H2O2 generation capability. Assembler's coming off this way. We can put H2O2 generator here. And that'll give us all of our basic stuff that we really need. And then we'll just need to work on this power. Some more turbines in it. We'll finish off that tower with another 3. And we'll attack these guys as well. So that'll flesh out this base. I don't intend to stay here very long. I actually want to build a substantial craft. So I'm not going to worry about making this base pretty. I'm just going to get some of these components working for me. And then as soon as I can, I will escape from Titan. I guess in this scenario, my escape craft will actually be my mining craft. And I'll take some of this industry with me as well. It'll be a bit of a hunchback craft. Which means it's really not going to be vertical if I'm stacking all that stuff. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like. Like a monstrosity, really. So what we can really do is have this automate itself. We'll put a welder in. Queue you all up, and I'll turn this guy on. Just let that welder work everything. Online short. Excellent. So this is all set up, and I can just come back in here with a full load of materials and park appropriately. That should also help me recharge. Connect and recharge, and I can power those down while I'm doing the maintenance in here. Refinery is already pulled. I guess I need to make sure I'm telling the right cargo containers to go where. Orange is going to be on the base, and white is going to be on the grid that I'm on. So if I go cargo container from where I'm at to cargo container to where I want you to go, these small ones, there we go. Small ones are going to need that. Also take it out of the drill, which should have pushed out. There we go. So that's looking pretty good there. And we've got that assembler partially built. I don't know if... Yeah, you got reached out here. It's just a matter of actually building the things. Where's our production? We need way more computers than that. As it's building, it's putting in here one at a time, which is good. Now you're online. Excellent. So what I can do is this assembler is going to be the master basic, and I can actually put you in a co-op mode. So the basic one is empty in its queue, and the master is also empty. And when I tell my stuff to build, it's actually going to task the master first, and then it will have the master distribute that to everything else, and that's how you get things built. And I need those medical components. So I can't build medical components, but I do have 3 just sitting right here. Take them out of my survival kit and put them into my survival kit. I did not expect that. But I am thankful it did not blow up my ship. That big piece of ore in there. Why you need to manage your inventory as well. Hopefully I won't lose everything I've got here. I shouldn't. But I don't have some bird of prey in orbit that I can escape to either. The storm's getting pretty bad here. So with that that break, you can see the game is actually paused because the server's disconnected. Since I've got my infrastructure pretty well set onto the large grid, is go and build myself the escape ship / mining ship. This one's doing pretty good. It's actually doing a lot better than I expected, never having used a vertical miner. But I need to upgrade to that next level, which means a new ship. I guess we'll continue that on the next time. So until then, go forth and build great things. See you then.